All right, here's the first and exclusive reaction coming in from the petitioner's lawyer. Lawyer Sanjay Hegde, he says, we will be moving the Supreme Court soon. The pro-hijab petitioners to move the apex court. Sanjay Hegde extensively argued as to how hijab has been mentioned multiple times in the Quran and that it has been prescribed in Quran for Muslim girls to cover their head and to follow hijab. This is what Sanjay Hegde's arguments were extensively in court while the hearing went on for 2 weeks. And now, as the Karnataka High Court pronounces its verdict saying that hijab is not an essential religious practice, here is Sanjay Hegde now saying to India Today that he will be moving the Supreme Court soon. The pro-hijab petitioners, as expected, all set to move the apex court. Let me cut across to Anisha, who has spoken with Sanjay Hegde. This is exactly what he said while he decides to take this matter to the apex court. Let's take a listen.
We're being joined by senior advocate Sanjay Hegde, who was representing some of the petitioners in the Karnataka Hijab row. Sir, thank you very much for speaking to India Today. The verdict is in. The court has said that hijab is not an essential part of religious practice, and that the government and the schools do have the right to prescribe uniform, and students cannot object to the uniform. How do you respond to this, sir? And how your clients going to be moving the Supreme Court in appeal on this matter?
The response is that we respect the verdict of the court, but the same constitution that protects us also allows us to move the Supreme Court, and I'm sure that it will be done very shortly, possibly in the course of a day or two. The Supreme Court is shut for about 3 days later in the week. So in all probability, any hearing, if any, will be in the week after Holi. I would not want to react to specific portions of the verdict, but I would say that, look, this was a fight not only for the hijab, it was a fight for constitutional values, for the constitutional right to freedom of religion as well as freedom of conscience. This verdict will be studied at great detail by a lot of people, and it will have ramifications which will also be examined by the Supreme Court. My clients have full faith in the judicial process and the Constitution of India.
Sir, if I may ask, some of the observations in these verdicts, it's a 129-page verdict. I'm not sure if you've had the chance to read through the entire thing so far, but some of the observations in this verdict are not just about the legal issue, but the court has gone into the question of the politicization of the college committees. The court has, however, said that at this moment we're not making any comments, but it is something that needs to be looked into, that whether the presence of the elected persons in the college committees is correct or not. Is this something that you would be raising again in the Supreme Court as well?
Sometimes the problem is that if politicians enter colleges, then colleges too get politicized. I am in broad agreement with the sentiments expressed in the judgment as far as the depoliticization of colleges is concerned. Why should a government college have a development committee with an MLA in it? You may have very learned MLAs, but equally, many of them are learned only in politics and not necessarily have great educative value. So I think it's a good idea to keep politicians out of educational institutions.
But sir, the court has also noted that there seems to be some possibility of political pressure, or how they've termed as unseen hands behind this entire controversy. The court has questioned that they are dismayed that this kind of a controversy came up in the middle of the academic year and has been blown out of proportion in this particular manner. And they've asked the police also to continue their investigation expeditiously. Will this affect how the case will go forward?
Don't know. My answer would be entirely speculative. I hope that cooler heads prevail. There is a legal process, there is a constitution of India, and there are much greater legal minds than mine who will be on this case also. So I think right now it is time to take a deep breath, study the judgment, and then proceed further.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to India Today.
All right, that was Sanjay Hegde, who is the petitioner's lawyer, extensively saying that there were several arguments that need to be deliberated upon, and he's all set to move the Supreme Court on this matter. Now, meanwhile, India Today exclusively spoke to Karnataka Education Minister B.C. Nagesh after the Karnataka High Court dismissed Hijab Rao petitions altogether, upholding the Karnataka government's definition on uniformity. Here's what B.C. Nagesh said. B.C. Nagesh joining me right here, Education Minister, who's been right from day one telling us exactly the same, that the Karnataka government is not against hijab as a practice at all. It's one's wish to wear what they want, where they want to. But when it comes to educational institutions like classrooms, there must be uniformity that must be maintained. Those institutions that have CDC guidelines, that have strict guidelines when it comes to uniformity, you cannot veto it, and there must be no argument on that. Mr. B.C. Nagesh, it appears your government's vision and your definition of uniformity inside classrooms has almost been upheld by the Karnataka High Court with its verdict being pronounced. How do you look at this?
Definitely, I'm very happy because the High Court has upheld the stand of the government, and it has upheld the Karnataka Education Act and the rules of 1995. Whatever the petitioner had questioned has been dismissed. And lawmakers who had prescribed uniform to create uniformity among the young mind of India has been upheld. We know that the complexity will not be developed. Everyone feels equal before the law, and everyone feels that we are the sons of the great motherland. So uniform was introduced well before BJP government came in Karnataka, and that was upheld by the Honorable Chief Justice of the Karnataka High Court. I welcome the judgment.
Right. Mr. B.C. Nagesh, we heard you yourself are appealing to educational institutions to uphold the Karnataka High Court's verdict. But what we know of and what we saw right after the interim order came was many institutions that earlier allowed hijab went back to ban it completely. Would you have any word of advice to those institutions that earlier allowed hijab? Post this verdict, what should they follow?
Because I think you have followed the interim order. In the interim order, the judge had clearly said that neither orange shawls, nor flags, nor hijab can be allowed into the education institution. That is how, because of this, all the institutions followed the instruction given in the interim order of the judgment.
Right, but the interim order very specifically said that only institutions with CDC guidelines must maintain status quo. Others don't come under that ambit. But we saw almost a fallout and repercussions with other institutions that earlier allowed, now not allowing. Again, a word of direction from your end will really help solve the commotion and confusion outside these institutions, sir.
No, whatever the confusion which had come earlier will be clarified in future rules and acts. We are going to observe whatever the observation made by the Honorable High Court, and we'll study the final order copy, final orders after receiving the order copy. We'll speak with the Honorable our Chief Minister, and also with the legal department, and we will try to see that all loose end in the rules and act will be set right.
Like, for example, Mr. B.C. Nagesh, a quick word, like minority educational institutions which earlier allowed Muslim girls to wear hijab, even those minority schools and colleges had like a blanket ban waiting for the verdict. A word of advice to them.
As I said, I am going to, after receiving the order copy from the High Court, we are going to study that and then we will finally say. But as of now, no government institution has a right to allow hijab,
including minority institutions.
Yeah, if it is a government institution.
All right, I'm going to quickly cut across to the campus front of India, who has been outrightly backing the petitioners. They are holding a press conference. Here's what they're saying.
ಅವತ್ತು ತೀರ್ಪು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಮತ್ತು ಕೇಸರಿ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ತುಲನೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಇಂಟ್ರಿಮ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ ತರ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಇದೊಂದು ಒತ್ತಡದ ಮೇರೆಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತಹ ತೀರ್ಪಾಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಇಲ್ಲದ್ರೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಒಪ್ಪುವಂತ ವಿಚಾರ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ತರದೊಂದು ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಯಾವ್ದು ಕೂಡ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಂತ ವಿಚಾರ ಇದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಈ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟ್ರಿಮ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಆದ ನಂತರ ಹಲವಾರು ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಭೇಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲೇಜುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಭೇಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ವೆ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಿಸುಮಾರು 700 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಯರಿಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮೇ ಅಲೌಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣ.
We did not expect this verdict from the Karnataka High Court. In fact, right after the interim order, the many institutions that earlier allowed hijab did not allow students to come in. Close to 700 students across Karnataka were deprived of their education and even their examinations.
ಸ್ಕಾರ್ಫ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ತಲೆಗೊಂದು ಶಾಲ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅಸಹಿಷ್ಣುತೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು.
How is this wrong? How is it wrong to wear a shawl or a scarf on your head? How does it interfere with education?
ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದು 21 ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಸರ್ವೆ ಮಾಡಿದಂತ ವಿಚಾರ.
We are just giving you numbers on the ones we have surveyed. There are many more girls who are subjected to harassment.
ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡುವಂತದಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಮುಖ್ಯನಾ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮುಖ್ಯನಾ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ.
Now they're asking questions like, is hijab important or education important?
ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಷ್ಟಲ್ಲ.
But that is our question back to the government. Is it important, education important or hijab important for you?
ಅದು ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದಂತ ವಿಚಾರ ಇದೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ.
The Karnataka government has to establish that what their stance is, whether giving education to Muslim girls is their priority and their focus, or is it to harass them on the name of hijab?
ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡೋದು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಹೋಮ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸಿಎಂ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಬಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಶಾಂತಿ ಕಾಪಾಡಿ, ಶಾಂತಿ ಕಾಪಾಡಿ. ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ಕಾಪಾಡೋದು.
All the Karnataka ministers and state administration have been appealing for peace, but who is the one really instigating commotion and public order? Peace is being disturbed by the Karnataka government itself.
ಈ ತರದೊಂದು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಖಂಡಿತ ನಾವು ಕಾನೂನಾತ್ಮಕ ನೆಲೆಗಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ.
We will definitely go to the higher court. We will make use of legal provisions available.
ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ ತೀರ್ಪುಗಳು ಬರಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು 11,000 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಬೀದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತು ಕಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಗಳು ಬರ್ದಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೋರ್ಟಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ ಇಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇನ್ನು ಈ ತೀರ್ಪು ಏನಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಇನ್ನು ಈ ಮೇಲ್ಮನೆ ಹೋಗುದಾ, ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಸಮಯ ತುಂಬಾ ಹಿಡಿಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಯವರೆಗೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಬೀದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೋ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಮಗೆ ಭಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅವರ ಭವಿಷ್ಯದ ಮೇಲೆ ಭಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು.
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ BC ನಾಗೇಶ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕೇವಲ 400 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗೆ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂಕಿಅಂಶ ತೆಗೆದಾಗ 21 ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 78ರಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲೇಜನ್ನು ನಾವು ರೀಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಕರಣ ನಡೆದಂತ 88 ಕಾಲೇಜನ್ನು ರೀಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿರುವಂತಹ ಅಂಕಿಅಂಶ ನಮಗೆ 11,000ರಷ್ಟು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಯರು ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಶಾಲೆಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರವನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಜನರನ್ನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ದಿಕ್ಕು ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೇವಲ 400 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಅಂತ BC ನಾಗೇಶ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 11,000 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಯರು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ವಿಚಾರದ.
Almost 11,000 students are outside their schools and colleges because they've been denied entry with the hijab.
ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕೊಡುವಂತ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಅವರದು.
It is the government's duty to provide education to all students, including Muslim girls. Hijab should not be their reason to stop them from being educated.
ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂದಿನ ನಡೆ ಖಂಡಿತ ಈ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿನಿಯರು ಏನು ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಮೆಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅದೇ ತರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಶೋರ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರ ಕಾನೂನಾತ್ಮಕ ನೆಲೆಗಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅವರ ಜೊತೆಗೂಡಿ ನಿಲ್ಲುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ನಾವು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾ, ಅದು ಯಾವ ತರ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಫೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಧೀಶರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯಾರು ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೇವೆ ನಾವು.
ಸರ್ ಆಗ್ಲೇ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ನ್ಯಾಯಾಧೀಶರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒತ್ತಡ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಯಾವ ಸರ್ಕಮ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಲಾಬ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ ಡೆಪ್ತ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಲಾಬ್ರೇಟ್.
ಇದು ನ್ಯಾಯಾಧೀಶರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ.
And that's the campus front of India, the student wing of the PFI. They have now backed these petitioners, calling and almost slamming the verdict, saying that this is an absolute violation of their constitutional rights and the repercussions could be larger than what is seen. We're going to continue tracking those developments. Do stay with us.